Alright, what is poppin', people? We're back. Now, for those of y'all that pay attention to the NU sub forum, you might have been aware there was an NU tiering survey going on. And it did take a little bit of time to get the results out, but we have them here. And you may be asking, but sir, why didn't you record a video on the survey, sir? And to answer you, I would say I did. Because I did. But honestly, so here's how my uploading works. There will be days that I'm out of it. And so I'll record a video, and in my instant thoughts after recording are just like, wow, that was awful. I didn't like how that went at all. That was really how that video went. And I didn't really end up wanting to re-record it. So I just said, you know what? We'll talk about the results, and that'll be that. So, to get anyone up to speed, anyone what the survey went over, just so we're still on the same page, was pretty much how every other tiering surveys worked, regardless of tier. So, general thoughts on, metagame stability and enjoyment, some Pokemon that could be retested, and some Pokemon that maybe should be suspect tested out of the tier. And so, when we're looking at mons that we're looking to get out of the tier, I think the ones we talked about were Blastoise, Sirfetch'd, Doublade, Salazzle, I think, got brought up, wildly enough. And then I think we even... maybe Snorlax was on there? I don't remember if we put Snorlax on there, because that was, like, right after we had just unbanned it, so it would have made no sense. But I do know people voiced concerns about Snorlax, so there's that. And then mods that were being retested potentially, there was an option for just straight up no suspect testing because maybe people just didn't think there was anything worth testing. But yeah, other ones like Indeedee-male, Tornadus-incarnate, Regidrago, which maybe comes as a surprise to some people. But that was mainly because we had just council voted it out of the tier. We wanted to give the masses a chance to say, hey, we want to get an actual test for this. Porygon Z was an option, Pangoro was an option, Sigilif was an option. And there may have been one other, but hell if I remember what it was. So, oh wait, my phone just randomly, Snapchat from a group chat. That's lovely. So, as you can look at here, I actually just forgot. We also had a question about snow warning, and route to go with that. Be it, don't unban snow warning, unban snow warning through a council vote, suspect test it. Regardless, the outcome afterwards would be, snow warning gets free to be ban Arctivish. But yeah, just full disclosure, that's also a discussion to be had. So, anyhow, let's look at just the general metagame fielding questions. Now, we're actually seeing some really high responses here. We're looking at people just straight up enjoying the metagame at about a 74% clip. I guess that's not really accurate, but people are rating it about a 7.4 out of 10, so 74% of the max score. There you go, bop. And that's pretty good, I would say. If you want to give a rough grading for how you would view metagame, like scores, a 5, a 6, that's where you're generally getting your average if you're going to call a metagame just like, I'm fine with it. Don't really feel either way about it. When you start getting the like mid-7s, that's, I feel you're in a good spot. And you see that reflected as well with how people feel about the tier being balanced. As an NU council member, as someone just generally heavily invested in the NU tier and community at large, I find this really promising. I really do. I'm happy that people are pretty content with the state of the tier, both from a balance perspective and just general enjoyment. And I think this can be viewed as well, like it's reflected through just the forum and Discord, the chats that we've seen go on there. If you think back even just like 3 months, right, so last tiering cycle, there was a whole lot of noise about both Blastoise and Sirfetch'd. And while I would still say people were viewing the metagame pretty positively, those mons got talked about every day. I had to discuss with people constantly about Sirfetch'd's balance level in the tier, or Blastoise, should it be banned, because, especially if you think back to when Light Clay was around, Blastoise Shell Smash twice, and then win game. A very fun Pokemon to have around. But as the months have passed, as the metagame has definitely found its identity, I would even say, you know, post-Flygon meta, post-Celebi meta, what have you, the general noise around this Pokemon, while still present, has subsided substantially. You know, as we've seen, you know, what balance structures look like a lot more. Sure, maybe they're a little bit repetitive at times, but I don't think centralization in a metagame is a problem. I'm gonna harken to PU's suspect test of currently of Drampa, and there are a lot of people saying, oh, the tier is at a bad spot because it's centralized around Drampa. I disagree. I think that's a really, in my opinion at least, keep in mind, this is like tiering philosophy, so people differ on this. I think centralization is a good thing. There's a point, obviously, where if a tier is like centralized, if the tier is centralized around a Pokemon that is legitimately just like broken, and you're having to like essentially construct teams that are held together by paper clips and yarn to check some broken ass breaker, right? So think like if a Veltal or something dropped into OU, yeah, there's probably teams that could manage to check it. Maybe. Maybe you can find a structure. I say this with like incredible amounts of uncertainty because Veltal's strong. But the point is, yeah, you could, at the end of the day, a lot of time you can build teams that still handle really powerful Pokemon. It's just a matter of like, to what lengths do you have to go to prep for one Pokemon? And then how does that compromise your matchups into other Pokemon? Like, does the presence of this Mon make the tier legitimately, like, you're, like, not only are you having to prep overly hard for something, but are you also having to, like, sacrifice an insane amount in other matchups? I don't really feel like speaking about whether Drampa does that for PU, because, well, while I have at least some modicum of knowledge of PU, I don't feel as strong about my overall knowledge there. But when you think about, like, with NU, right? NU, I would say, is heavily centralized around Talonflame in a way. Like, that Mon just finds its way. I guess saying it's centralized with Talonflame's a little wrong. Talonflame is on, like, every other team, right? And that kind of affects the viability of Sirfetch'd. You know, you have not only a Mon that defensively answers it despite the knockoff crippling it, but you have, like, this Mon that's being slapped onto every other team that really affects how much Sirfetch'd can do. Additionally, you're seeing teams just generally be a little bit more offensive in nature. I say that, they're faster, I think is a better way to put it. And that's partly because of Sirfetch'd. Another part because there's just a lot of, like, really, really strong nuclear wall breakers in that speed tier. And so, you don't want to have a team that's overly slow. You can get away with slower builds, but they are a little bit, you have to play a lot more carefully around Pokemon, I think, when you go for those routes. And so, I wouldn't say the tiers are still, like, centralized around stopping things like Sirfetch'd and Blastoise, but I think the tiers adapted to their presence really well. Again, there's a little bit of a difference between centralization and just, like, healthy adaptation. You could say centralization could still be healthy. I'm trying to think of, like, an old gen NU example. And the best one I can have is, like, maybe Haunter in Gen 3 NU? Where that Mon is there are people that do think Haunter is debatably broken there, but tiers are really centralized around it as a Pokemon, I would say. Because it's the best wall breaker in the tier. And it also is one of the best, like, late game cleaners in the tier, because it's got one of the least contested speed tiers possible. Only one Mon naturally outspeeds it, only a handful speed tie. But you see a lot of checks to Haunter running around that are also just genuinely, like, really good Pokemon. You know, you don't have to go out of your way to build a team that safely deals with Haunter. And I think that's where we find Sirfetch'd and Blastoise, and, you know, again, other Mons as well, like Salazzle now in the meta, where you don't really have to go out of your way to have a positive matchup into these Pokemon. You just pretty naturally end up building teams that do handle them well. And I think that's, as we've had the tier go this way, that's a good reason why Sirfetch'd and Blastoise get talked about less now. And to come full circle, that's why we see people more generally just enjoying the meta and feeling it is pretty, you know, again, balanced. That was a lot of words. My bad if that at some points got a little rambly. Anyhow, let's now look at the mons that got actual suspect support. I think these results are not going to shock anyone. Indeedee-male getting the most support. Nearly half of people, nearly half the survey response actually said, like, yes, this mon should get suspect tested. Like, next, immediately. And another 11 people saying that, you know, second choice. And then, okay, so then Fitch is saying 53 out of 65 straight up have Indeedee-male they think is a suspect, like, candidate. This takes into account other people that maybe have the no test option, like, a lot lower. But we're seeing around 80% of candidates, of voters. Actually, I think that's over 80. Over 80% of people are straight up saying, yes, we support an Indeedee-male suspect test at some point. Maybe they think other bonds should get one first, but they are fine with Indeedee-male getting tested. And I think this makes a lot of sense. You know, you think like 2 months back. Maybe not 2 months. At least over a month ago, though. In the NU Council chat, I actually brought up Indeedee-male. And I think even in a video, I don't remember how long ago I uploaded that, but I do remember I brought up Indeedee-male as a suspect candidate to drop down into the tier. And I was just like, well, let's look at this for a second. Indeedee-female, I think at the time wasn't even ranked on the VR. Surely, Indeedee-male can't be that much better, right? Obviously, gotta acknowledge a speed tier is a benefit. I believe it's base 90, if I'm remembering right, or 95. I think 95. So it gives you the jump on, say, you know, Rotom Mo, and it also lets you avoid speed ties with other base 85s. And it is also stronger. Those are, sure, it's a better offensive option. But is 10 extra base special attack and speed really enough to break it? I don't think it is. I think it'd still be another nuclear wall breaker in a tier that already has a whole bunch, while also having a much better speed tier than a lot of the others. But with how teams are currently constructed, you have steel types on pretty much every team. Very rarely do you see a team that forgoes one, because honestly, I'll be frank, a large part of it's because Dragalge is so good, but also other dragon types, like Goodra. And dark types are also commonplace, despite us not having a whole bunch of, like, great defensive ones. You know, you're looking at really just Guzzlord for that. Yes, Indeedee-male has the coverage to snipe Guzzlord, to snipe Drapion, to snipe even, like, the frail ones, you know, like Sneasel. You know, whether it's you're talking about, like, Dazzling Gleam, or even just Hyper Voice doing a whole bunch to them. Like, it's not like you're just walling it. But it's similar to preventing Tyrantrum from spamming Head Smash, where forcing it to use its weaker moves puts you in a much better spot. It's like if Sirfetch'd doesn't get to just click close combat against your team repeatedly. Yes, it could still make progress with knockoff. It could still threaten a revenge kill with first impression. I mean, Brave Bird is also still like a good coverage move to hit answers to it like Talonflame, Vileplume, Sylveon. But you're preventing it from clicking the nuclear option as much as it wants to. You're preventing it from clicking just that, again, the main wall breaking tool that it has. And that goes a long way towards limiting its effectiveness. And so, yeah, I think Indeedee-male is a very reasonable candidate, and from what I'm hearing about, it's likely going to be suspect tested in the very near future. And then next up, Tornadus-incarnate. Now, we actually have a lot of again, there's actually still a really high Tornadus, what's it called, suspect favoring. We're having 43% of people actually Tornadus I. I'm guessing at least number 2 is what this is saying. Yeah, I think 43% is, when he says over most alternatives, I think that means like 2 or 1. Mostly basically saying no vote was the 3rd most voted. But this one makes sense too. And I'm not saying I think Tornadus is going to have any shot of being bounced in NU. Because, look at the coverage. Look at the just overall utility even move pool. Look at the stats. Tornadus would be like probably still broken. But I think the main reason there is such support for Tornadus, despite all of that, is that when Tornadus was banned, it was with Drizzle in the tier. And I'll even speak from experience. I felt, at the time, Tornadus outside of Rain kinda was bad. I kept having, like, I could not get any mileage out of that Pokemon outside of Rain. But in Rain, I felt it was broken, like, beyond broken. It was so free. I remember playing with my boy Rick, and we were loading up with Rain, and there was some guy literally trying to C-team us. That's not overly important, but I remember the experience was just Rain Tornadus made so much progress so consistently. But outside of Rain, that Mon did nothing. Part of it's because Hurricane is a shit move to have to rely on. Poor accuracy, you have less than a coin flip's chance of hitting 2 in a row. I think there were even, like, I think Sun was also allowed at the time, which obviously that complicates things a little further too. But yet they're allowing an inaccurate move. There were God, it's so hard to, like, think back to then. But there were also a lot of, like, other breakers around at the time. So I do think that literally any strong Pokemon was viewed as a little bit problematic. I think that's kind of where you see some of the Porygon Z and Pangoro suspect test support from. You know, Porygon Z got banned back when there were like 50 other breakers that could claim 7 KOs against your 6 Pokemon team. Yes, I said 7. Pangoro, obviously a little bit different because banned alongside Beware, so that's always going to be a little bit of a point of contention. But I do think the Tornadus-incarnate support makes sense when you look at the context of its ban. People are basically the argument revolves around you saying Drizzle enabled Tornadus-incarnate to too great of extents, and so we think that without it, it'd be fine. Or your other argument is Drizzle was an insane confounding variable, which basically just means that it skews the results in such a way that you can't really view them as significant. And so people feel, okay, at the least we should still suspect test it and see what it happens. Because I think the thing to keep in mind with suspect tests is that just because we test something does not mean it's being brought back to NU. That's still on the voters, the people who, who qualify to vote. They still got to make that decision on whether or not they think this mod should actually be brought back down into the tier. And so, it's not like it's affecting tournaments. Yeah, it's affecting ladder for 2 weeks, but I mean, hey, there's no real other option right now posed to us. It's just, allowing the community to have a say. So if you're scared of the prospect of Tornadus, it's not any guarantee that it would actually be made in you again. And then I guess we could talk about Pangoro and Porygon Z at least a little bit, because they are the next two that Fedge has noted as like getting at least marginal support. I think with Pangoro, the big argument that I've seen is that it's the comparison to Sirfetch'd, and people saying, surely Pangoro can't be that much worse. And I referenced to you the calc of CB knock from Pangoro, Okoing Talonflame a good percentage of the time as my counterpoint. So yes, I do think Pangoro is a fair bit worse. Next Pokemon, Porygon Z. I think, again, I'm not entertaining Pangoro. I think that argument is, Anyhow, Porygon Z. I think the point with it, again, kind of harkens back to Tornadus. That when I talked about, like, just so many Mons around at the same time. I just hit my microphone. I'm so sorry, guys. But I think Porygon Z does get looked at a little bit negatively, or maybe a little bit favorably in terms of people wanting to test, because it was just banned in a meta where everything was chaotic. And with how teams are, like, consistently bringing, sometimes multiple normal resists, you'll see Diancie plus, Diancie plus Bronzong structures being pretty common. You have ones like Assault Vest Kaparaja that are really prevalent as well. Ferroseed gets some usage. Ghost types, not overly common, but you still see a good amount of them, so, it's not getting to always spam out Tri-Attack. There's at least reason to look at the current metagame and think, okay, Porygon Z might be balanced. It's sort of like Indeedee-male, where you can rationalize, I feel, that the metagame would be just naturally prepared enough for it. I think that's where the support comes from. It's also like, I think it's around the Indeedee speed tier. It's either 90 or 95. So while it is on the faster end of those nuclear wall breakers, it's not dominating the speed tier. My main worry with it would come from, I remember using agility sets with download, and those being, like, actual menaces to society. Like, you can time, like, it's not hard to actually just get yourself the special attack boost if you prepare your, Porygon Z's entry properly. It is a little unreliable because sometimes you don't get that shot, but in my experience, it happened more times than it didn't. And so, +1 special attack, +2 speed Porygon Z, with its coverage being pretty decent between like Tri-Attack, Dark Pulse, or Shadow Ball, and Thunderbolt. A little bit worrying of an option. Scares me also to have the potential for literally Exploud but faster. If I'm remembering right, Specs Adaptability Tri-Attack from PZ is about the same strength. I think like slightly, like by like 0.01 percentage points. It's like slightly stronger even, maybe? Which isn't necessarily say like, oh my god, it's even stronger than Exploud. The point is that it's at worst comparable in strength to Exploud, but it's a lot faster. So, offensive counterplay would be even more lacking, and because of the utility move pool for it, even including like Trick, potentially letting you just take things like Bronzong, Copperage, or Diancie out of commission entirely, I was very against that also getting a test. And we can talk about like Snow Warning here. Most people, I think, just are very okay with banning Arctivish and unbanning Snow Warning, because Arctizolt now is even banned from UU, so it's sort of taken out of our tiering jurisdiction. And a big part of the reason we went ahead with the Snow Warning ban was we were pretty content to also ban Arctivish, but there was enough noise from the community saying like, okay, this is 3 hail-related bans. How about just ban the weather itself, or the auto setting of it? And so again, we said, okay, sure. And we had a suspect test, and we banned Snow Warning. But now, there'd only be 2 bans, because maybe we'd ban Aurora Veil immediately. I don't know if we would. Without Light Clay, Aurora Veil actually is probably okay. Regardless of that, though, there's no longer that case of too many bans just because of one factor that could be dealt with instead. So we're going to look into banning Snow Warning instead. Or not unbanning Snow Warning and banning Arctivish instead, my bad. And then again, we talked about these guys here. Sirfetch'd almost had that. So when the on the survey, I believe it was 3, was people would be okay with a suspect test, not necessarily like in support of, but they'd accept one. Sirfetch'd almost got that, and then Blastoise was pushing it up there. Salazzle nowhere near that. Blade, I think, also nowhere near that. I will say again, this makes sense, because while I did note that talks of these mons being overbearing had simmered down, there are still people that view Blastoise and Sirfetch'd as too good. Sirfetch'd because Leak is kind of stupid, with how it just means you get the coin flip a crit on every turn. I will say that coin flip can land on tails sometimes when you want heads, and I've seen people fall victim to their Sirfetch'd not doing damage, really. I know Blastoise, again, the thing is mostly just people getting Dark Pulse flinched one too many times, or running into, like, Earthquake Blastoise, which I think is kind of troll, but it's basically you saying, I will flinch you with Dark Pulse, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. I think that's, like, the mindset people come at with their, Earthquake Stoises. But it does also actually help against, like, Helios, Trigalgy, Toxicroak. It's not without merit. Anyhow, again, my take at least is we're not actually considering suspects on anything here right now, and that we're more focused on, again, voting on Snow Warning and then potentially testing these 2. I think Indeedee-male is definitely going to be tested, but again, let's just be trying to read the room. I could be wrong. But hey, we might see one of these pop up in the future. And then yeah, there were multiple responses about Snorlax, which I'll keep it a buck with you. I don't understand. I think Snorlax is incredibly mid, and that the support for, or that people wanting it suspect tested are... I don't want to be rude, because that's not any good for this kind of discussion. But what I will say is I feel the pro ban on Snorlax users may be playing a different metagame than me. Entirely because I can't recall a single time I had to specifically build out of my way for a Snorlax matchup. I think on paper threat, insane. Bonkers. One of the highest I've ever seen. You know, like think back to when Glastrier originally dropped. On paper, insane. Bonkers. One of the biggest threats on paper I've ever seen. Just because of the stats. And Snorlax is very similar to that, but it has, I mean, frankly, a better defensive typing. Even if Mono Normal isn't the best, it's still better than Mono Ice by a large margin. But hey, people are entitled to their own opinion, and I won't bash them too heavily for it. I hope you all enjoyed this. Future content. I'm actually very much considering... I've seen a lot of comments about people being a little bit sad that the videos on the SCL replays are going to be ending, because, you know, SCL's ending. We are going to have the new NU Team Tour coming up. I don't know when that's going to start, but I'll be managering in it, so that'll be fun. But we're going to have that. I might do some coverage on that. NU Classic Playoffs, like I just noted, I might look at some of the replays from that as well, because it gives me a chance to, you know, boomer talk about older gens of NU, which is really fun. I will say, we're not going over every replay. There's going to be too many, and I do not know gens 4, 5, and 6 of NU nearly as well as I know gens 3 and 7. So if you're into ADV NU or Sun and Moon NU, or just want to learn more about, you know, old gens of NU, be on the lookout for that. I'm probably going to do like a couple mass replay reviews of those. And I think it'll be fun. And yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Shout out to GlitchX City for the constant great music. And she just uploaded this one today. And I'll be honest, this goes hard. I like this. But thank y'all for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace.